Yeah, we're excited to be here today, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for talking with us. Today is going to be about the technology. It's going to be about Alveo. We're going to talk about some new features we've been working really hard on and that we want to get everybody up to speed on and so that you can just hit the ground running and make your life a lot easier. To get things started, I am going to go through a few slides to sort of introduce some of the new things in Alveo. And then to be completely honest with you, we're going to be demoing a lot today and just kind of walking through features. It's going to be lots of hands-on time. And then when we're done demoing, the agenda is going to be hands-on. If you just want to set up a workspace and you need help getting your strategy translated into laying out Alveo, we're here for that too. We build it every day. This is what we do is Alveo. So today is about the technology, it's about the software, and it's going to be all that. So my background, I've been building Alveo for a while. It's been 2 years now, pretty much. Longer than that, to be honest. When we did our Pedals and Profits bike trip, when I wasn't riding a bike, I was writing code, and that was my day every day. And I was building it out, and we finally launched it in November of 2014. So we're coming up on 2 years here in the next 2 months on Alveo, and it's come a long ways. For those of you who have been around, I've seen some head nods. For those of you who were around in 2014, you remember what it was like and where we're at with it. And honestly, we've got some really exciting things to talk about where it's headed. Not just in terms of what's available today, but also what's coming in the pipeline and what's going to be available. I think we're truly making something unique. Unique not only to the Apiary Fund and how we can maximize sort of this group mentality that we have, but also unique to the investment world in general. Because of the group that we have and because of the diversified knowledge of the hive, we actually are able to build something that doesn't exist that's totally, totally special. So I can't wait to get into that. The overview of the day is this session we're going to talk about Alveo 1.5, what's new, what's changed, what you can start incorporating into your trading strategies, and your daily workflow. Then we're going to have a lab session where we're going to go around and we're going to meet with each person as best we can. And after that lab, Josh is going to be giving us a presentation. You're not going to probably be able to read that because this font was, in order to smash everything on, the font's really tiny. But for those of you who read the release notes, Alveo 1.5 has got a lot of new things. From a total visual change, getting rid of things like black on black and white on white text, to totally overhauling how docking works, how windows work, how workspaces are saved and changed. A lot of that is different. We've made a lot of things far less annoying and removed quite a few steps, and we can't wait to get into what those things are. For example, changing your objects on your chart used to be a 6-step process. I measured it out. It was 6 steps to go in and change something on a chart. It's now like a single click from an indicator title on the chart, which is awesome. Anything we can do to save time and to let you focus on the strategies are best, in our opinion. Continuous drawing, one-click trading is totally different. It's not bound to the market watch list. It's now bound to charts, so that whatever you're viewing is actually what you are able to trade, as opposed to forgetting that you had to go back to a watch list to get one click. We'll demo all of this, but just so that you know, there are release notes on this so that when you go to update, it'll pull up the feature list and you can read through them one by one. And bug fixes, wow, that's even like running right off the page. Look at that. So you don't even know all the bugs that we fixed. It just runs right off the page. Okay, so some of the things we want to get into right off the bat. One-click trading is totally different. One of the biggest requests that we had was if we could come up with a position sizing calculator and build that right into Alveo, that would save a lot of time in trade setups. So what we did is we actually came up with a way to allow you to put in, there's a new setting inside the one-click trading view called percent risk. So don't let that confuse you when you're setting up a trading position. That doesn't actually alter what's the position you're going to enter. That just alters the calculation that's happening right here in one click. So what you do is you set your risk percent that you're comfortable with. And that can be 1%, that can be 2%, because obviously we know 2% is kind of the, on any given trade, that's kind of the threshold that the risk management system will trigger. You can define what percent risk you're comfortable with, your quantity, whatever your stop loss and take profit is in pips, and it will actually give you your projected gains if this trade is going to work out for you, and it will give you a projected loss. So if you look at that and you know, based on the parameters I've set up, if I get triggered out properly, I'm going to get $1.20 out of this position. If it goes completely against me, depending on what my risk threshold is, I'm going to lose $1.60. And then what's out to the side of that, you can see, can you read a little X6? I know it's tiny, tiny, but there's a little thing that says next to $1.60 loss, it says X6. Now, not only do I know that I can lose $1.60, but I can sustain 6 of those in a row and still stay within my 1% risk parameter. We're doing that math for you on the fly. So with the Benjamin formula math, you put in your risk parameter, you set up your target and your stop loss, and we'll tell you exactly what you can expect to get from this, what you could potentially lose, and how many times you could sustain that loss before you start to go over what that risk definition is. And we think it's going to go a long way to helping people out and giving people a sort of a picture of what their setups are actually translating to with their strategies, which is really, 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 really helpful. Okay, connection widget. This has been really, really, really big. What you see, there's 1,000 times more things going on behind the scenes, but we wanted to show some of them. Connection quality has been a big issue. Since the beginning of Alveo, we've realized that we send quotes about 100 times faster than we should to a lot of computers. That's been one of our sources of our greatest strengths and our greatest weaknesses, because not every computer and internet connection and scenario is best for that. So with this new little widget in the bottom left, you can tap that. It'll slide open and tell you, it'll give you a little graph and tell you sort of your performance, your network performance over time. It'll tell you your trading server connection latency, your quote server connection latency, and whether or not you're on a primary or secondary feed for both of those connections. This is handy because you'll know that depending on what you're doing on your computer and what your network is like, if that's adversely affecting, more or less your performance. How many ticks you can get. Because if you notice on the bottom, there's a little quote metric that tells you I'm getting 45 quotes per second. If you alter something on your network, or you decide you want to trade in your backyard, or whatever, whoa, I just dropped down to 3 quotes per second. Why did that happen? And you'll have a good indicator of what's optimal so that you're getting the most information to make your decisions. And to be honest with you, in Alveo 1.5, we've made that very, very adaptive. It's a lot like YouTube. If you're watching like a YouTube video or a Netflix video and you notice the quality kind of will drop, or maybe it will scale back up, we're doing the same thing with our quote feed. We're giving you as much as we see that we can give you, and then we're just throttling that up or down depending on how good that connection is. And we're keeping track of that in real time. If you have more questions about how that works, or if you have concerns about slippage or gaps or any type of thing like that, if you're on, say, you're a funded account, you're on a totally different aggregated view of liquidity provider. I mean, we try to keep simulated accounts similar, but you may see that you're getting 2 or 3 times the ticks on your live account than you are on your simulated. So keep track of that. Pre-fund is the same way. You'll notice your pre-fund probably has a bit higher rate of quotes, which is totally going to alter how your indicators work, because they're going to have more information. So they're going to be painting in a very different way. And you may have seen that when you switch between accounts and you realize that, hey, my EMA doesn't look the same on this account as it does on that. Well, that's because you're dealing with a 4 megapixel picture here and a 20 megapixel picture there. There's just way more clarity and there's way more to see. And so we think that having this and getting a good idea of what the differences are and how they're affected will start to help people understand what's going on behind the scenes a little bit. Because we know as traders, more information is good. You don't have to look at it. You don't need to be paralyzed by it, but that's also, it can be helpful. You'll notice, and this is just one example of many, I didn't want to go through every single one, but there's probably at least, half a dozen, maybe 8 new views in Alveo that are native into Alveo. We've seen a lot of people jumping back and forth between apiaryfund.com to see what training classes are going on, what's in the forums, that kind of thing. And they're jumping back and forth, and we think it'd be really valuable to actually just leverage our training information and what classes are happening, when they're happening, right inside Alveo with one click. So that way we know what classes are, what you can jump into. You should, so if you select any of these classes, a little sheet will slide out to the right. You'll get more information on when it starts, who's teaching it, and what's scheduled for it. We think it's really, really going to be a powerful tool, because we'll often throw something on the calendar and no one will have known about it until after it's already passed. And what's great about this is we can tie into the new notification center in Alveo 1.5, and if a class is starting up, we'll put a little discrete banner up there that says, hey, class is starting right now. If you want to ignore that, you can, because you're probably focused, but at least you're aware. At least the information's there. So that's up in the toolbar. You'll see a little widget that looks like this. It'll open that up. Account switching and labeling is all new in 1.5. We're realizing that people like to keep strategies for different accounts. This is my throwaway one where I'm totally doing something left field that I learned in Cat Tools and it's way out there. Or this is I want to keep my stats good and see what this strategy looks like. And it's been kind of a nightmare because you have to remember a 7-digit number to know which account you're in and what that means. Now, if you click the little account number up at the top, this little sheet drops down and you can click on the name of that. If it just says something generic like simulated, type in whatever you want, and then that account now is tagged to whatever label you've saved. So you can remember what accounts are, what they're for, and don't have to remember that random number that's related to it. So if you want to change pre-fund to something else, you could do that. Just so that you can be aware of what it is and what you're doing. Okay, so let's get into the demos. So how tabs work and layouts they've changed a lot. The workspace is a very different place, is it not? It is. Yeah. In fact, let's just start talking about some of these main windows. The first thing right off the bat, chart tools, totally gone from the main toolbar. They're now exclusive to each individual chart. So instead of the chart tools just being off to the side and then you have to select whatever active chart you're wanting to work on and then going back and forth to tools, each chart now has its own tools, which means switching time frames on an individual chart is unique to that chart. You don't have to go back and forth 3 or 4 times in order just to make a simple change. The actual chart itself, what it is, can be switched right here. So if you've designed this workspace out and you want to switch your AUD, whatever pair back to a Euro USD, you can just toggle back and forth right inside that chart. Whereas before that was new chart, put it into your workspace. Workspaces felt a little more permanent that way. This makes it a lot more flexible. Even the windows themselves have changed in how they are laid out and structured. One of the biggest things that people have noticed is that these little buttons have come in, a minimize, a maximize, and a close. This is something we're really excited about because it allows people to jump into a chart, see something full screen, and then put it back where it was. And if you remember before, you had to pop that out of a workspace, it floated, and then you were like, okay, now I have to reconstruct my workspace to get it back. Whereas now you can just hit this restore button and you're right back where you were. So full screen, back to your layout is just 2 clicks. You can tell it's about time saving. So another example of that would be Say this pivot indicator was something that I wanted to alter. You can go indicators, you can get your list, select pivots, and then make a change here to your settings, or now you can just select the name and you're into it. You just click the name right on the chart, you're into your indicator list, and you're already altering the settings. So you just skipped 4 steps and you're right inside your settings now. So if you remember these titles, every one of the indicators you have on your chart will have a little title right here that represents this data series that's being painted on your chart. That's how you enter it. You just click that and you're in. Indicator settings is a totally different beast. We're going to switch to a different computer if that lets us.
Yeah, so when you first load up an indicator to put it on the chart, we have this advanced section that we've collapsed. Basically what it is just a bunch of settings that most people don't really need to change in order to get the indicator going. So we've separated out the settings to an advanced and a regular setting so that you can focus on what exactly is important for the indicator. And then after it's been applied to the chart and you want to, this is again part of the advanced section, you want to change the colors of the series. You just get this drop down for the series itself, and then you find this, the name of the series that you want to change. You can change the color here. You can change the width, the line type, add a shift. All features that were in Alveo 1.4.22, but
we're buried pretty heavily.
We're buried, yeah.
Yeah, you may not have ever even seen that. You didn't even know that was even there, which is now it's a little bit more to the forefront.
So continuing on with some of the tools here on the chart, you notice this little drop down here lets you trade from right on the chart. You can either click buy and sell, and if you have one click trading enabled, then that will enter your position based off of your variables. But you can also, there's also this option to let you place pending orders, and what this does is it gives you a little drawing cursor that you can set a horizontal line to wherever you want your pending position to be at, and you can drag it where you want it to be.
So just so you know, what he did is he clicked on the option to put on a pending buy or a pending sell, kept the mouse cursor down right to where he wanted the price to be. So visually, all you've done is just dragged it right to the price you want it to be, and then he let go. And then he had a position on. So it was just, it's all visual. All it is just, I want it right there. Now you have a pending trade on. And it's a single click. Some of the other things I want to talk about are some of the time savers that you're going to start noticing. A lot of people have made the request, and probably those of you in this room have seen this, that when you want to add a new chart, a little popover would come on where you define a whole bunch of options, what template I want to use, what symbol I want to launch, what time frame, and how many bars. Well, now that's attached right to this drop down. I'm pointing at my monitor like you can see it. Sorry about that. But that's attached right to this toolbar. So when this slides down and you've selected that I actually want to launch a new chart with the blue and red template, and I want to see my this pair, and I'd normally want a 5-minute time frame to launch. Well, now when I want to go launch a new chart, I've been off going and doing whatever I'm doing, and I come back to launch a new chart. That's all still there. So launching a new chart and changing those settings is always going to change it, because you may not want 150 bars. You may always want 1,000 bars. So launching a new chart will always go with 1,000 bars. So if you loaded a chart originally with 500 bars and you want to drop that down to 150, right on the chart you can do that. No chart is married to however you launched it. Switching the time frame, the number of bars, even the symbol itself is all totally flexible in switching it out. So again, more just time savers. You don't have to launch new charts that have to be configured with all the same settings. It's just you can switch the one thing you need to switch in order to see what you're looking for. So more time savers. Some of the same things that we brought to the new chart button, we brought to the new order view. New order view has been cleaned up a lot, and we've just kind of simplified it, so it's a lot easier to use. All the same options are there It's just cleaner. It's just cleaner and goes with the same thing. So let me open a market watch or a watch list. I want to throw it over here and show you some more time savers. So watch lists before in 1.4 you had a little select text box right here, and you'd start typing in whatever symbol you wanted, and a little drop down came in and gave you the option to what symbols you wanted to add to the list. In this version, there's an add. Josh came up with this, way awesome. There's an add button that shows you all the pairs that are available, and now if you want it in your watch list, you just turn it on or you turn it off. And if you don't want those there, then you can hide them. It's a single click, and you can tell that the ones that are highlighted in white or grayed out, now you know what's in your watch list. So if you want to grow your watch list out, it's that fast. So as you can tell, when I've selected one of these, it didn't pull up one click from the bottom. That's something that you've seen in the past. One click is its own window now, and you can launch that from up here. Right in this section, you've got orders history, one click, your ledger to see deposits and withdrawals. For those of you on a funded account, ledger probably is more important. On a sim, you probably have never even opened it. One-click trading is, and I showed that in the slide, is its own window. And why we did that is because before, whatever you had in your watch list selected, it would change your one-click. And we found that a lot of people want to actually just run this in its own little box wherever they want to run it. So if you want this up over here, but you don't want to drag your whole watch list with you, you can do that now. And what's nice about it is it's actually bound to the chart. So whatever you're working on and doing analysis on, immediately one click is up to speed. It's like, oh, you're looking at Aussie CAD. Okay, I'm ready to trade Aussie CAD. You're looking at Euro USD. I'm ready to, you see that immediately change to Euro USD. Well, now it's ready to trade that. And so all of these position sizes, this is what's really cool, is because everyone knows that the value of a pip is obviously different depending on what symbol you're looking at, right? Well, your risk calculation will immediately shift to whatever pair you're viewing. So if you've set up your risk percentage and you've said, I'm comfortable with, say, my trading session today is going to be like a 1%, then now I know that with a 25 pip take profit and a 20 pip stop loss, I can basically sustain a single trade with this account to maximize, because you see that X1 tells me that I can sustain a single loss of $10 before I've lost 1%. And that's going to vary depending on what pair you're looking at. Now I'm looking at an Aussie CAD, and immediately that's dropped down to $7.68 with the exact same stop loss and take profit. Whereas before that was pull out your TI-83 or, and you can do that math, but now it's right in line. So we're clearly just trying to save you time. Orders and orders history. It's a different animal now. For those of you who have installed it, you see this little pen icon right here. We give you everything in there, right? Trade commission, agent commission, time in force, expiration, a whole bunch of columns that you maybe, especially in the order side, you maybe don't really find that important. So with this new drop down, you can say, I don't want those anymore, and I only want the options. I only want these columns. Well, you define that, and then you move them around and you sort them exactly how you want, and this is all saved as part of a workspace. So the next time you load up your workspace, your orders view is going to be displayed exactly how it was when you last changed all these options. Something you'll notice in a lot of these different views, especially the ones that have grids like this, where it's just lots of data, you're going to start seeing some stats. So just like in the iPhone app that we have, you've got a trailing 100 stats right across the top. Tells you the total quantity on your positions, pips, and profit. Yesterday during the FOMC, I was trading these tiny little lot sizes, so I've only traded half a lot. But I had a 390 pips up, which was great for this tiny little $1,000 account, because it's $72 in profit. But that's right there. That's not back to the app. It's not back to the stats page. It's just quick 100 trailing stats right there in the order history. And same thing with the pending or with the open positions as well. We've had these stats for a while, but we haven't had the ability to customize what columns you see and where you see them. Yeah, we do have a few other things planned by way of what's happening today. If you notice, a lot of these information boxes right across the bottom are turning into widgets like this connection information. Same thing happens to the session clock and is going to happen to pips today and some of these other stats across the bottom. These will be little pop-up boxes that are going to give you not just today, but I think it's yesterday, or is it a trailing? Last week. We're gonna keep taking all those even further to give you more information. Okay, so this session clock, you may have noticed that the actual little 4 dots that we had, the green and orange dots, you remember those? Those are gone. We had some people panicking because we found out people liked that. But the same information is down here in this widget for the session clock. If you glance down there, not only do you see the dots, but you see the colors represented by the country code. So now we know UK, US markets are open because those are green and they're right here on this session clock widget. So the same information's there, but if you want more granular detail, you can click it and open it up and see that not only is the London open and the New York open, but London's closing in 2 hours and 25 minutes. And the New York just opened an hour and 35 minutes ago. And that's really useful for those of you who are doing trade positions like, banker's close or whatever the setup is that you're doing. You can actually see that, oh, I'm still in the wake of the New York Open or the London Open. And or not only is it orange, the London just closed, but when did it close? And that's obviously useful, right? Because knowing where we are in a session is just as useful as it being open or closed. So don't panic, it's not gone, it's just expanded.
So if we have a stop loss and let's say the market's moving in our direction, instead of having to double click and modify to add a trailing stop, we can just click on this trailing stop button here and it adds the trailing stop and removes it, just like that.
Yeah, I missed that one, because that's a huge time saver. If you remember going in and adding a trailing stop, usually when you want to do that, that's something depending on what's happening in real time, you're wanting to add right that second so that you know that it's in place at the right time, and you can just do that on the fly now.
Some of the features we didn't mention here on the chart, I just want to go over real quick. The ability to change a crosshair. Instead of having to click on the crosshair every single time, you can click V on your keyboard to just V.
Just the letter V, and you could just switch between mouse and crosshair tool.
Yeah, just like that.
There's a few aspects to how the mouse works that we've changed. So toggling between the crosshairs and the cursor is the same, but if you remember, the crosshairs had a few different bugs in it not being able to measure pips into that forecasted space. Things like that, or like that's all been fixed. The ability to resize the y-axis with the left and right click works, but did you notice the context menu didn't come up when I did that? It didn't block my y-axis. That was a huge annoyance fix. You right click here for this menu to pop up, but then when you right click to resize your chart position, it would also pop up, and then you couldn't see what prices you were scrolling to. Stuff like that. It's just stuff that we just needed to get out of the way so that it was cleaner and easier to use. And here's the calendar view in action. This goes forward a week and back a week on the calendar view. So if you notice, there's this block of tools right here launches that calendar view. So if I wanted to take a look at fast track to funding, I could pull up the description. I could see who the instructor is, and if I wanted to, right from here, I could just launch the class and go right into it. Some of the things that we need to show you, because they're just, let me make sure I'm sharing. Yeah, you can see that. That we really want to show is the Beeline view and the notification view up in the top right is going to become sort of a new hub of information. And I think that we're trying to, instead of having these popovers left and right and all over the place, we've put all of our notifications into one place, and we've given them this new place to live so that you can pull them up and actually get a history. If you've gotten a popover because a trade got rejected, then you closed it and you don't know what happened, that's going to roll into history. And I can show you what that looks like if we are you thinking of setting up a position or something
and then
that gets
to close
rejected?
it twice.
Yeah. If I do that, I could do it like this. Okay, so I tried to close a trade that was in the middle of being rejected. Did you see that little banner slide out over the top?
Middle of being processed.
It told me that my trade was in the middle of being processed and it can't be closed while it's in the middle of getting set to the liquidity. It's being executed. Thank you. And so I'm getting a little counter here that tells me I've got a notification that's unread that I can check out. And once I've read that and I'm comfortable with it, I can clear those and get rid of that little batch, similar to how you've seen on a mobile operating system. But all of our different notifications are now going into there. If you've got an expert advisor that you want to send you information and pop up a notification, that's where it's going to go. It's going to go right into that, and you're going to have like a feed of messages that are piling into there. So Beeline's changed in a good way. You can see that instead of going into the main view to see your Beeline achievement and what's happening, you can now just click on this existing achievement, see your overall progress, and you're up next, right there from that button. You can also see previous hives, when you achieved them, so that you can get an idea of your history of what's happened. This main view is pretty similar to before,
You can go back.
but all of these widgets are new in the top. But now you can go back to your previous hives, see when you got exact achievements and the history on that. We're going to soon add a social share feature where you can throw this out to Facebook and lord it over all your friends that you're gold 3, that kind of thing, if we want to. Here's the account switcher in action. I've got a bunch of random names because I've tagged them depending on what server they're on and different things. So if I wanted something more friendly, I could be like, this is my cat strategy. Put that in there, and now my 187047 is always going to say that label. If I switch to that account and click, all I have to do is click this right here on the side, and now I'm immediately logged into that account and everything just rolled in. My trades, everything gets loaded just by switching over to these, and the cat strategy label that's right here is going to be displayed right on the top. So you know where you are, what you're trading in, and that label is defined by you, defined by whatever you want it to say. For those of you who have written code and/or who want to write code, the code editor's changed in a big way. When you load it up, it would block the UI, and it would take over everything, and you could only do that until you closed it. Now it's a first-class citizen, and you can actually bring it in and dock it like you do anything else. So as you're building an EA, you can actually have your code open here, compile your EA, and keep trading right over here on the side. And as for those of you who know, we've uploaded all of our indicators to GitHub. So if you even wanted to just pull the source code for any of our current indicators and tweak one little thing here or there, you could do that if you wanted to get your feet wet into the programming side of things. Yeah, it sounds like we've just created a lot of questions. So hopefully we can spend some time now and go around and start answering some of those and get some hands-on time with each of you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks for letting us show you all this.